Today's summit really marks a new era in the relationship between the UK and Ireland. I think we've reset our relationship, turned a page on the turbulent years, if I may say, in recent years. And I think today's announcements show we're serious about making the partnership meaningful, deep and beneficial for working people.
You've brought a centre of gravity and stability to that situation, which I think is appreciated. As I said earlier this morning to our business colleagues, economy and security are inextricably linked.
Well, on Ukraine, obviously, it's really important that we focus on what matters most. And what matters most, in my view, is a lasting peace that ensures that Ukraine is both sovereign, able to make their own decisions, and secure, so in a position where we don't just stop the fighting for it to start again in a year or two or three. For that to happen, obviously, it's important that we are all focused on that, and it is important that if there is a deal, and we don't know there will be, that we defend the deal. And that means that we need to think about what's the guarantee, what's the security guarantee. Now, what I've said is, I think Europe needs to step up into this space. We've said for a long time that Europe needs to do more on its own security and defence. I think that's right. And the United Kingdom will play a leading part because we've always stepped up when it's required. So that's why I've made that commitment on behalf of our country. It has to be done in conjunction with the United States because we have for many decades worked very closely with the United States. You will know through the work you do that our defence, our security, our intelligence is intertwined. No two other countries are as close when it comes to defence and security as our two countries. So we want to do this in conjunction with the United States because it's that ability to work with the United States and with our European partners that has kept the peace for 80 years now. That's why it's important we step up into this space. In the meantime, we need to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position. We don't know there's going to be a deal. The fighting is going on, and it's a big mistake to think, well, all we've got to do is wait for a deal now. We've got to make sure that if they are fighting on, they're in the strongest position, and even if they go into negotiation, they're in the strongest position. I do think Europe needs to step up on security and defence more broadly, and I want to win contracts for you and others as that happens, because as the whole of Europe steps up, and I do think it will, that means it's not just the demands, as it were, of our government, it's other governments as well will be looking around to see, well, where can we place our orders for the capability we need? And I know we're good enough, we're leading enough in this country to say you should be putting your orders with us. I think as we go forward with defence and security, we're going to have to press forward on sea, on air, on land. If you look at the Ukraine conflict, it's clear that maritime, what we're doing at sea, has been a huge part of that. And therefore, as we go through our strategic review, as we look at what does the next chapter of our history hold, it's clear that maritime shipbuilding is going to have to be a big part of that. You may have seen that last week we announced the highest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. And that means that defence spending is going to come on track by 2027 and then a sustained year-on-year increase. And I want that to be something which is really significant towards the defence and security of our country, much needed at the moment, but I also want it to be measured in jobs and businesses and skills in this country and in places like this.
European leaders pledged on Thursday to stand by Ukraine and spoke of a new era of military preparedness spurred by Russia's invasion and Donald Trump's abandonment of what had once been a U.S. ally in Kiev.
We want a peace through strength. And this is the reason why I present today to the leaders the Rearm Europe plan.
EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the summit in Brussels and described her vision of rearming Europe and supplying Ukraine with weapons.
It gives the member states possibility to invest in the Ukrainian defense industry or to procure military capabilities that go right away to Ukraine.
We made a strong signal to Ukrainian people, to Ukrainian warriors, to civilians, to all our families. And it's great that we are not alone. We feel it. and we know it. Thank you so much for everything.
According to NATO, Washington provided more than 40% of military aid sent to Ukraine last year.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days. I heard it from Putin. In 3 days.
But President Donald Trump abruptly ended that arms supply following an Oval Office shouting match with Zelensky last week that led to a reversal in American support and stunned American allies. In the days since, that shock has hardened into new resolve, driven by fears that Russia, emboldened by its war in Ukraine, may attack an EU country next, and that Europe cannot rely on the U.S. to come to its aid. In a televised address on the eve of the summit, French President Emmanuel Macron said, quote, "I want to believe that the United States will stand by us, but we have to be ready if that is not the case." And in a sign of the gravity of the moment, Macron said that France was open to discussing extending the protection offered by its nuclear arsenal to its European partners. Moscow said Macron's speech contained notes of what it called, quote, "nuclear blackmail." The French proposal was met with mixed reaction from other nations.
I think it's a very interesting idea, and we see to this proposal with high expectations because, nuclear umbrella would serve as really very serious deterrence towards Russia.
That was Lithuania's President Gitanas Nausėda.
Wir sind in der NATO miteinander verbündet. Dazu gibt es.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stressed the need to keep the U.S. involved.
Well, President Zelensky sent a letter to the president. I think the president thought that it was a really good, positive first step. And from that, we're now in discussions to coordinate a meeting with the Ukrainians in Riyadh or even potentially Jeddah. So the city's moving around a little bit, but it will be Saudi Arabia. And I think the idea is to get down a framework for a peace agreement and an initial ceasefire as well. He's listening intently. They're stakeholders here. It's important to them, and it's important to him how they feel. So he's listening intently. But first and foremost, we had to get to the Ukrainians, get them back, right? Get them back in a different place, and they're talking peace now.